I'm Dr. Carl Schreck. In this video, I'll be talking about the predecessor rainfall event, or PRE, that happened before Hurricane Helene. A predecessor rainfall event is essentially a cold front or upper level low that would have been causing it to rain anyway, but that rain got supercharged by moisture that was being fed to it up from the storm itself, even though that hurricane was all the way down in the Gulf. And because of this PRE, along with the hurricane itself, the rain and the flooding were actually predicted pretty well by the National Weather Service a couple days in advance. In fact, this is a slide that was produced by the National Weather Service in Greenville-Spartanburg, which serves our area here in Asheville, that they created to share with emergency managers on Tuesday evening before the storm passed through. The storm came through actually on Friday morning. And this provided emergency managers with a timeline to expect what types of hazards and when. So the wind was primarily going to be Friday morning when the storm itself passed through. However, the mountains were going to be susceptible to flooding starting on Wednesday evening and then really ramping up Friday morning, along with landslide risk on Friday as well. And this is pretty much the way things ended up panning out. They also produced this forecast of rainfall totals on Wednesday morning, a few hours before the rain actually began. And they were predicting 10 to 15 inches of rain for a large swath of the region. Now, as a snow lover, when I saw 10 to 15 inches, I sure hoped that's snow, but sadly, this was all rain, and that's what caused all the flooding that we saw. And this forecast, it was actually pretty good. If anything, it was a little bit on the low side, but it really gave folks an idea of how much rain we were expected to see over the coming days. And again, a big part of why they were able to forecast it so well was because of this predecessor rainfall event, where there was a slow-moving front that was basically stalled over our region that would have been causing it to rain anyway on Wednesday and Thursday. However, there was this storm in the Gulf, and actually this graphic's a little generous. When the PRE really started getting going, the storm was down closer to Cuba in the Yucatan. But even so, it was able to push all this moisture northward. And when that moisture ran into our mountains and ran into this front, all that moisture got wrung out in terms of really heavy rain. And that's what caused all the heavy rain that we saw on Wednesday and Thursday before the hurricane even came through. And these predecessor rainfall events can be a really challenging communication problem because it's hard to get folks to pay attention to an event that's hundreds or thousands of miles away from the actual hurricane itself, when a lot of the media coverage might be talking about the hurricane. Now, I'm a CocoRaHS observer, which means I have a rain gauge that looks like this outside my house that I check every morning at 7 a.m. I've been doing it since I bought my first house in 2012 in the Asheville area. And these are the largest rainfall totals that I've observed. And two of those top rainfall events were from Hurricane Helene. In fact, the heaviest rainfall I had was that first night, Wednesday night, going into Thursday morning. So I check this every morning at 7 a.m. The rain started sometime mid to late afternoon on Wednesday. So in about 18 hours, we had over 6.5 inches of rain. And I'll talk more in a later video about what these return intervals mean, but 6.5 inches of rain in one day is a 1 in 500 year event. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to get another 6.5 inch rainfall event for another 500 years. What it means in any given year, you have a 0.2% chance or a 1 in 1/500 chance of seeing a rainfall that big. Thursday, going into Friday morning, I had another major rainfall event, 2.7 inches of rain, which was a 3-year event, something I'd have about a 33% chance of seeing any given year. The final day, Friday morning, as the hurricane was actually passing through, I only got about 1 inch of rain, so that wasn't nearly as significant, didn't make the list here. But all told, I had about 10 inches of rain out of this event. Now, here's a weather map from Tuesday before the predecessor rainfall event really got going. I'm going to show a few of these maps and can be a little bit complicated, so I'm going to try to walk you through them. So the colors on here, this is a satellite image showing how much moisture there was. The bright yellows and reds, that's heavy clouds and rainfall. The blues and purples, that tends to be much drier air. where it's maybe clear skies. And so on Tuesday afternoon, the hurricane or tropical storm Helene at that time was still in the Western Caribbean Ocean. And you can see there was a nice dry slot of these dark blues between the hurricane and this frontal boundary that was going from like Texas through the Carolinas. And so there's a good separation at that point between the front and the moisture source of the hurricane. Now stepping forward to Wednesday afternoon, now the hurricane is just north of the Yucatan and Cuba, still very, very far away from western North Carolina. But now already its clouds are starting to merge with those of that cold front going up the East Coast. And you can see that moisture just spiraling northward along the East Coast on the eastern side of the hurricane. And so the hurricane is funneling all that moisture northward, it's running into that cold front, and that front is producing tons and tons of rain at that time. And so this is a map of the CoCoRa's observations from Thursday morning. So this is like Wednesday night's rainfall. 6.5 inches of rain at my house, but plenty of places getting 7, 8, 9 inches of rain, 12 inches of rain down in Transylvania County, southwest of the Asheville area. Step forward to Thursday afternoon. Now the hurricane is getting ready to make landfall on the Gulf Coast in Florida, but those clouds are still pushing all that moisture northward. The frontal zones moved a little bit further westward, so at least at our house we had a relative lull in the rain on Thursday afternoon, but it was still raining very, very hard. And in fact, looking at the rainfall totals, we only had 2.7 inches of rain, but plenty of folks had 9, 10 inches of rain, another 13.5 inches of rain down there in Lake Toxaway and Brevard. Step forward another day, now the hurricane has made landfall. This is Friday morning when the center of the storm is pretty much right over us in Asheville. And now the hurricane has really merged with that frontal system, and you're starting to actually see fronts associated with the storm itself. And so it's really become more of an extratropical or mid-latitude storm at this point. And the center of the storm passed through around like 9 or 10 in the morning on that Friday morning. So from 7 a.m. on Friday to 7 a.m. Saturday, we got about just over an inch of rain at my house. So over the course of the 3-day event, I had just over 10 inches of rain at my house, but lots of places all along the eastern side of the Appalachians got 20 to 30 inches of rain, 29.9 inches down in Transylvania County. So just a lot of rain that fell in a short period of time in just those 3 days. And this is one of the river gauges from the French Broad River in Asheville. And this is kind of highlighting exactly what we saw with all that rainfall coming through. When the initial predecessor rainfall event happened on Wednesday and Thursday, already the rivers started to rise and get into minor flood stages. But it wasn't until Hurricane Helene came through on Friday morning that it really surged upwards and got to those record values, breaking in some cases records from 2004. In other cases, it broke records going all the way back to 1916. And I'm not sure to what degree that ramp up on Friday was associated with the actual rain from the storm versus all that rain taking some time to kind of trickle its way down from the mountains into the valleys and into the tributaries before making it to the French Broad River. So in this video, we talked about the predecessor rainfall event, or PRE, which was this cold front that would have been causing it to rain anyway in the days leading up to the hurricane. However, it was getting supercharged by all the moisture that was getting pushed northward by the hurricane itself. Because of that predecessor rainfall event, the National Weather Service was actually able to anticipate this event better than they might have otherwise. And so they were actually able to predict it pretty well how much rain we ended up seeing.